right, it's the same. It's the same dude in the queue right now, so I'm not gonna join up. Here we go. Who are we playing against? Let's do something cool. So I usually have a pretty bad matchup against things like Storm, Ad Nauseam, basically combo decks that are even less fair than we are. But that said, at the PTQ I was at in Edmonton, which is like a 250 person PTQ on the last weekend, I did beat 2 Storm decks. All the Storm decks I fought against, I beat. Basically on the back of Fulminator Mage and Avalanche Riders, just denying them lands until they basically just had to give up.
How different was your sideboard for that tournament?
So that actually is a huge thing. So in my sideboard, I was playing Obstinate Baloth, which, you know, I thought was kind of a cool card for Edmonton specifically, because I know the prevalence of 8-rack in Edmonton is huge.
That's an interesting metagame choice.
Yeah, so there's a lot of Lilianas because there's a lot of Jund and a lot of 8-rack. And I did end up actually getting to cast it for free in 2 different matches and like 3 different games. And it really just, even with playing it for free, didn't do that much in the deck. It just wasn't that good.
Yeah, when I sideboard for decks, especially decks with interesting strategies like this, I try to look for cards that not only help me in bad matchups, but also help me in a way that further my strategy. And putting a 4/4 on the board isn't really getting you very far. It's nice, you know, if you get a free 4/4. I mean, everyone likes a free 4/4, but it's not putting creatures in your graveyard. It's not making sure they don't have creatures in the graveyard. It's not advancing your living in strategy any.
Exactly, and Brindlebore, while at 2/2, does come down 1 mana sooner, which is really important against burn, and will end up gaining you more life because you can sack it whenever you want and just get that 4 life.
Yeah, that card's perfect for this deck. I wish I had it as an option back in the extended days.
Wicked. So 2 2-mana cyclers and 1 just land cycler in a hand with 4 lands. This is an interesting one.
It's not very good. Are we on the play?
We're on the play.
If we knew what we were up against, obviously it's easier to make a decision. It's not the worst hand. I can imagine some 6-card hands that are a lot worse than this.
I think this is a fine hand to keep on the play, not knowing what your opponent is playing. And in other words, it's just good enough to lose with.
Yeah. I don't mind that keep.
Perfect. So we're just, going to do our Overgrown Tomb. Or, no, we do our fast lands, because we have 3 fast lands, so we know that we're going to have 3. We don't want to play that 4th land tapped. So we're going to go ahead and just do the Copperline Gorge F6 play.
Yeah, and it's good that we have double Jungle Weaver, because being able to draw an actual card instead of just getting the land is going to help us a lot.
Oh, if this was a hand of 3 Pale Recluses, I think this is a mulligan.
Yeah, that's unplayable.
I see, it looks like Pod. Pod or something very similar. Which is kind of like a surprisingly even matchup for us. A lot of people think that Pod is like a really bad matchup for their deck, but I think Living End has a fairly decent time against Pod.
Well, Pod tries to put a lot of creatures on the board, and just being able to wipe them all while giving yourself a board presence is, that's good. They still get in situations where they have to beat you the old-fashioned way with creatures and the combat step.
Very true. Fulminator Mage is an interesting one. It's not that good in this matchup, actually.
No, it's not. They have way too many non-land mana sources.
I think we want to spend our time cycling here instead of Fulminator Maging.
Yeah, we need to find a living end, basically. So we have 2 cycles that we can do this turn.
Yes, we do. And we're not under a lot of pressure just yet. And they don't have their actual pod out. Thought Seizing. So, against the Thoughtseize right now, we definitely don't want them to grab a cycling spell that we draw into. Let's see. What's his best play here? Take Street Wraith, I think?
Taking Street Wraith is probably the best thing he can do.
Do we just want to cycle our Street Wraith now and then have kind of redundant spiders in our hand?
I probably would just let him Thoughtseize, because if we actually draw a spell that we really need, then that Thoughtseize gets real value. Right now, the Thoughtseize is not taking a real spell.
No, any of the things that he puts in the graveyard right now, we're just going to give back.
Yeah.
Okay, Jungle Weaver. Or no, he took Fulminator Mage, which is actually just fine. That was not the one I would have suspected. Murder Shrep Cap is part of the combo, which does make me a little nervous, but they don't have the pod to fetch the rest, so hopefully they don't find it. Sure.
Now he has a bit of resiliency to our living end, which can get a little annoying.
True. So he's going to get at least a 2/2 and a 1/1 back after our next living end here. Now the question is do we wait another few turns? Can we even survive 2, 3, 4? We're only taking 4 damage a turn at this time, but we don't want to fall victim to him just plopping his combo onto the board at this point.
Well, yeah, it's a source wave. If we had the instant one, then we could respond to it. So we should probably just play it safe and just get a board presence. He's just gonna have a 2/2 and a 1/1. We can fight through that. We get Jungle Weavers.
Yes, we get Jungle Weavers, and he loses a Godless Shrine. So that's very important.
He's gonna be down to just 2 mana sources, which is not enough for him to do anything relevant.
Yes, 100%. That is a really cool profile picture that Chandy's notebook has. I can't even really tell what it is.
What is that? It looks sliverish.
It does look kind of slivery, like a sliver ooze.
Is that? I don't know which. I think it's one of the slivers from M15.
Very cool. So what's your next destination?
Next destination, actually this weekend, there's a WMCQ in Indianapolis that we're going to be streaming. For my pastimes, and it's going to be on Gigi's live channel, but I don't know if this is going to go up before then. So after that, I'll be in the Seattle area for the Magic Online Community Cup.
Oh, very cool. So what is he getting back with Eternal Witness here?
Probably a mana source. He's going to need mana, so it looks like it's what is it, Rollerwood?
Oh, he's getting a Voice of Resurgence back.
Oh,
very interesting.
He wants to beat you down.
Yes, he does. I think, yeah, having up a 4/4 is going to be a big game for him. So Verdant Catacombs just goes and grabs, I think, a random tap land here. Godless Shrine seems pretty good. Just to start hard casting these Pale Recluses once we get to 6 mana. Let's see. We have some pretty good attacks here with the Jungle Weaver, and the Street Wraith is still it's a 1-for-1 with a double block, but
it's unblockable. It has,
oh, he's got a swamp. That's right. Let's get right in there with all our guys.
So we just get to get him with everything, and we can blow up his Temple Garden also.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that does actually blank the card that he got back with his Eternal Witness, so that's big game. All right, let's get in here. Red, white. Sweet. Overgrown Tomb comes in tapped, and we're good.
One more land.
Yeah, I know. I suppose there's some merit to playing it untapped, fetching a land for sure with Pale Recluse, and then playing the other one. But I think we would rather just have 2 beefy creatures in our hand at this point. Violent Outburst is an interesting one. I don't think it's kind of our emergency button.
Well, we could just kill him with it. You can attack him and Violent Outburst.
Oh yeah, because he will. Yeah, so we just kill him with Street Wraith. Perfect.
Yeah, it actually is a spell sometimes.
Absolutely. Wonderful.
But remember not to
just click through it.
Oh yeah. Well, I was gonna say remember not to
cast Living End by mistake too. Yeah. I was so worried about thinking about that. I was like, oh no, I'm gonna screw up and cast the spell while Rashad is watching me, and then I just didn't cast it at all. But that's fine. I think we're just gonna win. So our flub is minimal this time. Perfect. Having an opponent at -12 always feels good.
Yeah.
Ingot Chewer is our friend against Pod.
That seems like a really good one.
And Shriekma, I think, too, is really good against Pod.
What about those Fairy Macabres?
Those fairies are super important against their combo. They do look like they're playing the Malira version. The rest seems kind of subpar. Now, do we need to accelerate super quickly against Pod? I'm not sure that we do.
Well, I was just going to ask, because that matchup didn't seem too bad. And I'm trying to imagine how it can get a lot worse, and the only way is if they combo out super fast. Do we really need this many sideboard cards in this matchup?
That's true. So our big one, I guess, here is Fairy Macabre, just to stop the combo itself. If we're doing something like Ingot Chewer versus something like Beast Within, really our only target for a destruction spell is land and pot itself. And is blowing up the land super important against a deck that has a lot of mana dudes? I'm not sure.
No, I think we got lucky to be able to keep this deck down to such a low mana count. I don't think Beast Within land is really a good strategy. I like Ingot Chewing the pod. I think that's something we want to do. But as far as blowing up land, we have Fulminator Mages in case we are in a situation where that can work out.
That's true. But do we even need those in this matchup?
I don't know that we need them. What non-basics do they run? Are there any special ones? There's the one that puts counters on all their creatures. That's a thing.
That's right. So but that'll take them a few activations before their creatures are bigger than ours.
Yeah, and the only way that actually works is if they have creatures on the battlefield. And I think plan A for us is to make sure they don't have creatures on the battlefield. Because if they don't have creatures, they don't have pod, they can't beat us. So just casting Living In should be good enough to get us out of a lot of these situations. Bringing in the Fairy Macabres to snag a persist creature every now and then, that should be good. I mean, that should be good enough just to keep the board clear.
100%. So let's try and surprise them with that fairy, because they didn't get to see it in game one. So let's hope they go for the big combo and they just get blown out here. So no, this is an interesting hand. We're on the draw. We've got the Ingot Chewer in case they've got that early pod. We have a 1-mana Cycler, and we do have a Simian Spirit Guide Pale Recluse thing to really get us out of trouble. So I think
this is a keeper.
I think this hand is a lot less risky than it looks initially. You look at a hand like this, like say if this was a limited format or like standard, you would see this hand and be like, okay, well, this is just a mulligan. I've got way too many spells, not enough lands. But really, we have 1, 2, 3 lands in our hand already.
Yeah, I mean, this is a 3-land hand. One of the lands, obviously, we don't want to use to get the other. If we could just draw something off of these 2 cycles that we're going to get, off the 1 land that we have, then we're golden.
Very true. So I guess our plan A here is cycle Monstrous Carabid, I guess, at the end of his turn. And if we don't draw the land on our draw step, I think we just go for the Pale Recluse Simian Spirit Guide to get our land drop, depending on what they play. So Wall of Roots isn't a huge deal for us. Let's get some sweet lands here. I feel almost like we want... Yeah, we do want red-green here.
Yeah, I think you want something that can cycle both the Deadshot and the Carabid, which any red source would do. Ugh, why'd you draw that card?
Well, so that I could draw Fairy Macabre just in case he goes off. So I think the safest play here is just to do the Simian Spirit Guide, grab a land with Pale Recluse, and then we can play that land untapped and still cycle with our Deadshot Minotaur if we need to.
I like that.
Okay, so let's go grab that right now. Exile this. I think we just want another forest. We need a black one, so black and green. And yeah, this is going to be untapped as well. Wicked.
So how's our graveyard looking? We may just want to turn 3 this again, right?
Yeah, so we've got essentially 8 power. 8 power and 9 toughness coming out of the board. Let's just see.
Ship, that's the man.
Sin Collector. That one is going to be... Oh, he's going to have to get Demonic Dread.
Yeah, that's bad for us, but... You know,
that's actually a really interesting sideboard choice. I haven't seen Pod bring in Sin Collector against Living End before.
It seems like they should, because there aren't a lot of spells in the Living End deck, but the spells that you hit are so important to the strategy that it should be sideboarded in against.
That's true. That's actually a good note for Pod players, because that did really hurt just now.
We'll just draw another one.
Of course. So, 2 options, I suppose. Play the Dryad Arbor out and Shriekmaw, I guess, Wall of Roots. Or, alternatively, we can cycle Deadshot Minotaur, try to find our combo.
I say we should cycle first, just to see what we...
Okay, well, we can't use Shriekmaw on the Wall of Roots this time, just because Dryad Arbor has Summoning Sickness, but...
Yeah. I don't really like the Shriekmaw on the Wall of Woods plan that
Yeah,
much.
yeah,
It's
let's save
just
that
one.
something bigger.
Yeah, I mean, we could save that for something that's actually like that's important. Um, and this way, I mean, I know putting a Shriekmaw in the graveyard means that when you're living in, it'll kill whatever they get back. But I like saving it for, say, a post living end removal spell for the next threat that they play.
Of course. So I'm not gonna trade this Synclick for a Dryad Arbor. I'd rather have a land. And let's see what the big play is here. I sort of want to see a pod come out, just so that we can sort of time walk them with our Ingot Chewer. But let's see what old Chinese Notebook does here. Very interesting. So are you? What's your most played format right now?
Right now it's probably Commander and Draft. I get to play a lot of drafts at Pro Tours and at GPs because after we watch a whole bunch of people play Magic, the thing that we want to do the most is play Magic, and the easiest thing for us to do is to just get a bunch of packs and start drafting. But I also have a few EDH decks that uh, I bring to events, and then everyone else on the coverage team basically has Commander decks too, so we all just play that. Haven't had a lot of time to do much real competitive stuff. Every now and then I'll dabble on Magic Online, but I haven't been to a PTQ in a long time.
Very cool. So just doing a lot of M15 recently.
Yeah, I've been doing a little bit of M15. Not my favorite. I'm not a big fan of base sets, so I'm kind of happy to hear that they're not going to be happening anymore in the near future.
Yeah, that's actually really interesting news. Yeah, the no more core set. So there's gonna be what M16 and then none ever again.
Yeah, that's it. I
That's
always felt that it was this weird pause in actual magic and storytelling that happened, and I found myself just kind of waiting for it, just waiting it out. I play a draft here and there, but just waiting to see what the next interesting new things were going to be that come out of Magic R&D.
100%. I'm gonna nail this scavenging ooze right now. Can this Wall of Roots activate on each turn?
Yeah, so
Once
it
each
can,
turn,
yeah,
so he can get the Deadshot Minotaur. So we should stack it so that Shriek Maw uses his ability and then goes to the graveyard.
right.
Okay, sweet.
I mean, we can also just Demonic Dread.
True, we can Demonic Dread. I guess that puts all of his dudes in the graveyard. And then we have Shriek
I
Maw
mean
for
that
post.
that we should kill the ooze first. I like that.
Okay, so let's take a quick think about that. If we do that, we don't have that much more action after this, so we might just want a 3/4.
Well, what we can do is we can kill the ooze, we can Ingot Chewer nothing and discard Fairy Macabre, and then we can living end all those back into play.
True. Perfect.
But we just need to get rid of that Scavenging Ooze because it's not good for our day. We're never going to have a good day with a Scavenging Ooze in play.
No, absolutely not. So here we go. He's going to probably Wall of Roots the Deadshot Minotaur away, which is expected. The Shriek Maw stays in play, kills the dude, and then gets sacrificed. So that's actually a pretty important series of events. And we need to do the Ingot Chewer now.
No, I think we can wait because we still have enough mana um, to do Ingot Chewer and cast Demonic Dread on the same
Yes.
turn.
Also, if he plays a pod right now, it's huge
Yeah.
game for us to have an Ingot Chewer.
Yeah, that's what I'm kind of hoping he does.
Linval,
Ooh.
activated village creature bonus control can't be activated.
So we want to get rid of our Fairy Macabre right now.
Fact.
Because I believe it stops you from being able to do that.
Yes, let's get rid of that, and it'll even come back without getting hit by a Deadshot Minotaur, which is really nice. But other than that really only stops what, Fulminator Mage? And I
It
guess
stops
our
Fulminator Mage. It stops
Simian
that Dryad
Spirit.
Arbor right there. So now we can't tap it for mana.
Yeah, that's a real downside too.
Yeah, that kind of actually. Ooh, but that one doesn't come to play untapped.
See, this is
So-
a big plus side for Grove, is you could just play this right now and get the extra 3/3 in play. But I'm not sure that 3/3 is gonna do well. I guess it is contributing to the clock.
Well, we
But-
can't cast the Ingot Chewer.
No, we can't because we can't use our Dryad Arbor for mana. So I think Demonic Dread, I
Right.
think, is just our only play here, which is fine. We do have a dude with fear, so Not a huge deal.
How many cards does he have? 2?
He has 2 cards left in hand and what, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 damage on board with a Gavany Township.
So what's the worst he can do? Let's say that we just wait a turn and he attacks us for 5. We go to 6. He can play a pod, use the pod, get something. Yeah, that's probably not good for us. If he has a pod now, it's probably really bad. So I think we should go for let's just go for the Demonic Dread.
All right. Seems good. Let's get some dudes on board and take all this away. And then if he draws a pod and plays it, we can just kill it with Ingot Chewer, and that's just fine with me.
If he plays a pod now, most likely he won't have the mana to have a creature and to play the pod, play the creature, and use the pod effectively. So we'll have time for Ingot Chewer to do something. Because he only has 5 mana. So he can cast it for 3, and then he can play a 1-drop, but that's not really enough.
Murder Strike Cap's a really good card for him right now.
Yeah, it's gonna 2-for-1 us.
Yeah, exactly. So, what is the play here? Is it Shriekmaw trading with the Murder Strike Cap and then hitting the persist trigger, or is it just wait?
I think we need to get rid of that red cap now, else he has infinite persist with Gavany Township. So we should attack and at least threaten, or at least offer him the trade. He probably takes it, and then we can use Fairy Macabre to get rid of it. Because if we don't, then we're in trouble because of that Gavany Township.
True. Okay, so we let it trade. Persist trigger goes on the stack. Nail it with Fairy Macabre. Take out that, and Linvala, I believe, is the correct one.
Yes, get her out of there.
Very good. So Persist resolves, but the guy doesn't come back.
We may want to just suspend Live and End.
I think that might have to be our next play.
Oh, we don't have double black.
No, we don't. So you thought he's an Ingot Chewer, I guess? Yeah. So we need a black mana or some action.
Oh, he has a pod. He's way too happy after that.
No kidding. So that's not quite where we want to be yet, but hopefully in the future.
We're still both top decking. Obviously, all he has to do is top deck any creature, and it's bad for us. We only have a certain number of creatures a certain number of spells we could top deck to get ourselves out of it.
Okay, so hard casting a Deadshot Minotaur is an option, or we can cycle it and roll the dice. I think just casting it probably where we want to be.
No, I think we want to cast it. We have a wolf run in place, so we have a threat. We can attack for 5 a turn.
5/5 trample or 5/4 trample seems pretty good to me. So can they grab something like a Dried Arbor and I guess they don't play it.
No, they don't play it because the only thing they can pot it into is like a Birds of Paradise, and it's you'd rather it just be another Birds of Paradise or something. Ooh, look at that.
Yeah, so I'm going to cast that right now so I don't screw up and forget or something. It's people don't realize how high pressure it is to play with other people watching. Let's crack the Verdant. What's the...
He doesn't have any cards in hand. I think
no, he doesn't.
He just wants to be able to F6.
Fair enough. Yeah, hit that Birthing Pod. That's a huge threat for us right now. Let's get in there with Deadshot Minotaur. And now we're playing an awesome game of Limited. Just where we want to be.
Any one creature off the top of his deck probably is not going to be good enough.
Birthing Pod is an interesting one.
Well, he's back in the same situation as he was last time. He needs to top deck a creature to start a chain, but we have a clock on him.
True. So we do need to use Kessig Wolf Run at least once to have a 2-turn clock here. 6, 7, 8, 14. So we can use it next turn, or we can use it this turn. And cycling a Pale Recluse out doesn't do that much for us.
We do it this turn. We attack him for 8, and that puts him to 5. And then he needs 2 blockers, or he needs to gain some life, or we can just win with either of those being unblocked. So I like doing that, because then we have basically 2 lethal attackers.
Yes, that's actually very important. And it limits the amount of times you can do things like play an untapped land, use Birthing Pod, things like that. So let's give our Ingot Chewer trample and +2/+0 because he's our favorite right now for nailing that first birthing pod.
He deserves it.
He does deserve it. He's like the MVP of this game right now. And what do we have coming up? 0 things. Oh, it's his upkeep right now.
Yeah, he's saying he's tapping the top of his deck.
Yes, or the top of his monitor as it is on MTGO. Oh, okay. Johnny Stonebeck says, FYI, that isn't affected by Linvala. I guess he's referring to our Fair Macabre. It is an activated ability. Oh, no. Yeah, it is. It is an activated ability, isn't it? Or is it just a cost?
Yeah, I think it Linvala may only affect creatures when they're on the battlefield. Maybe because it doesn't say creature cards.
Oh, yeah. It's just a spell at that point.
But,
so it's not a
better safe than sorry. There's no reason for us not to have done that anyway.
Well, yeah, let's be honest. The only thing we were going to do with it is get rid of that Scavenging Ooze. Wicked. So that's 2-0 for us right now.
This deck's unbeatable.
This deck is unbeatable. I think I want to leave it unbeatable. I think that's more than enough awesome footage for people to enjoy. Any final words on Living End, a deck so near and dear to both our hearts?
I think, well, I'm a little bit sad that we didn't get a chance to cast Monstred Carabit, because that was basically my favorite thing to attack people with, because you had to. But this deck has been a contender for a while. It was a contender when decks were a lot more powerful than they are right now, and it lost 0 cards and got more cards. It has options of what it can actually do. So I mean, I think it's a great deck as long as people don't respect it as a great deck, and they don't go, they don't put 6 cards in their sideboard to battle the Living End deck, because then it's a little bit worse. It's not as resilient if you are trying to beat it.
Exactly. I view Living End as a good deck when people are expecting it, and a great deck when people aren't expecting it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say at least 3 free match wins out of 9 rounds at the PTQ, just because people were like, oh, can I read that card after it happened? So that was sweet. And the only decks that I really lost to were ones that I just didn't see coming. So there was this Dimir Mana Rocks plus Ensnaring Bridge deck that was really good against me, because it had two vials for 0 main board or something like that. So yeah, so it was like, okay, so that you just made this deck to hate me out. That's cool. And then the other deck I land to was just Land Destruction, giving me a taste of my own medicine. So, I mean, all in all, I think it's a very competitive deck against the current meta. If you're not playing it, try it. If you're not succeeding with it, try it more. It's not a deck that you can just be really good at right away. It's definitely a practice deck.
It's pretty inexpensive to build, too. There's a lot of draft commons in here. Just find your friends who are doing a Shards of Alara draft and ask to pick through their draft commons after they're done, and you have half the deck.
Exactly, and beg someone for 4 Fulminator Mages and you're good. Wicked. Well, thank you so much for coming and helping me out with this Living End deck. I'm happy when it went 2-0. Despite some of the easy mistakes that people can make on MTGO.
Yeah, this was awesome. Thanks. If I have time, I'll do these all the time.
Perfect. I would love to have you back on. For ShatterPause.com and Rashad Miller, the nicest man in Magic today. Goodbye.